Hey, what's up, YouTube? Got some bad news today, and I feel like I should say something about this because, um, well, from what I've learned, 108 Morris 108. If you know Morris, he has passed away, and that's terrible news for one. And what makes it even worse is that YouTube had destroyed his channel about a month ago. I didn't really know about this. But they had terminated his channel about a month ago, and then he got sick and passed away. So here is the GoFundMe here. So they say Morris has passed away because of severe dengue. His condition rapidly declined over the past few days. Blood was coming out of his right eye and mouth. His liver was failing. His heart stopped beating for a while, and all that. Um, so it's nice to see that people were able to raise money for him, for his family, to get expenses. I don't know if they're still accepting money. I guess they still are. So I will post a link below if you want to contribute anything for his family. Now I knew Morris. I collaborated with Morris a few times. I mean, I interviewed him, and he's been on my show a couple times when we did We'll Do It Live way back sort of thing. So I knew Morris and kind of, didn't listen to him a lot over the past few years, although every now and again I would stumble upon his videos. And he was a dude. Okay, so like his thing here was he was in Cambodia, and he was, you could see visibly he was very poor. He basically just would wander around Cambodia and put up these really cool videos because you'd see a different part of the world. I mean, a completely different sort of lifestyle. And I remember seeing years back the shack that he lived in, which is right next to a river sort of thing. And it was like, I mean, it's like it's hard for us to understand what it's like to live like that. Not that it's a terrible thing or a bad thing or anything. He chose to live that way, but it's a totally different world sort of thing, right? Where you give up all the luxuries and comforts and convenience of living, say, in the West, and you go and you live somewhere where you're just basically, and he had a camera, and I know he had a motorbike for a bit, sort of thing. But yeah, he would just do these videos where he would just, I mean, this is how crazy it's gotten. Like, just to think about this for a second, that this guy, this is what every one of his videos was like. He would just be in somewhere in Cambodia, and he'd just talk. He'd just talk about what was going on with the New World Order, basically. He wasn't somebody that would ever go around saying bad things about people or take shots or anything. He would just talk about general things. So I'll just play a little bit of this for a second here because this is one of his last videos, I believe.
Saying it's not a topic of conversation. Having said that, I think the motivation about it is the anger and upset about the mass migration, the freedom of travel. Even Europeans, the British could live without it. But of course, there's this controversial topic of the Muslims arriving in Britain. And as far as I'm concerned, it's a grand strategy. It's been planned, it's induced, it's encouraged, it's paid for. But that isn't really the point I'd like to make. The point is you've got all this friction throughout Europe with mass migration, and it's always pitted as a Christian versus Islam, Christian Muslim conflict. Of course, we know who's pulling the strings. But in reality, if you look at the globe, there are so many Muslim countries angry about the Muslim migrants. I can list them. Bangladesh is not happy about the Rohingyas. It's not giving them rights. It's not giving them the rights to live there, to work there, to own a cell phone. I won't go on. And it's only recently where it really had no choice but to accept masses of them, but it still wants them to leave. So it didn't welcome them. And this has been going on for decades, this issue. In Iran, You got millions of Afghans, of course, escaping the war. And the Iranians are not happy about it. They'd like to make it an issue, but we're all governed by an elite that tell us to what we can say and what we can't say. And we know about that nowadays in the West. But there's tremendous anger about the mass migration of Afghanis into Tehran and Iran. And you can imagine poor people uprooted will do what they have to do to survive.
And this was basically how Morris would do all his videos. They were all like this, basically, where he would talk about geopolitics, the NWO, right? All the things, the mass migration, like he's talking about here, the Kalergi plan, things like that. And he would just talk to the camera, and he lived an extremely frugal lifestyle. And I think it's pretty abhorrent to think that this guy who had a channel for like 10 years apparently on YouTube, and just before he dies, YouTube deletes his entire YouTube existence. And just think about this, because this is, I mean, you could say things about people like me getting censored all the time, right? And maybe somehow you could twist that and justify it in some perverted way, right? But how could you justify YouTube destroying somebody's, career like Morris, who basically was just some guy who would get on camera and give his opinion on things? And they have erased his existence on YouTube, and then he dies just shortly after. I mean, it's just terrible. It really is terrible. And, people should be demanding that YouTube reinstates his channel. And if you can, maybe you might want to go and contribute to his fund here to help his family deal with this situation. But I'm just really sad to hear this, because it's like he's just one of these original guys. Like you want to say Truther or something like that. He's one of the original ones, right? He's been around for so long, sort of thing. And it's really sad, very sad to see him pass away. And I'm not surprised because of the way that he lived. I mean, you live in those conditions, there's a strong chance that you could catch something like he did and die, right? But nonetheless, I mean, to add insult to injury, they went and deleted his channel, shortly before he died, which is just repulsive, because I think at a bare minimum, he should at least have his videos up and, for the rest of time, sort of thing, hopefully on the platform. But you know how it's going, right? So this is how it's going. I feel the need to come in and, stand up for people, and the need to show this to folks so that people don't lose track of all the people that have sacrificed quite a bit to try to get information across, and how this censorship is getting worse all the time. And, how unfortunate it is to see something like this come about to somebody who was so inoffensive in so many ways. I mean, you couldn't be more inoffensive than, say, Morris was. He's a straight shooter. He just, telling you what his opinions were on what's going on. Take it or leave it, sort of thing. So yeah, really sad news. I'm sad to hear this, and I'd like to hear your thoughts on it. Did you know Morris? Did you ever watch his videos? What do you think about the censorship? How can we go about trying to get his channel reinstated? I think it's important that would be a good sort of thing for all of us to do, if we could manage to do that somehow, because it's just unacceptable that YouTube would do something like this. So anyways, yeah, thanks for taking the time to listen. It's a sad news, but I feel I should say something. All the best. Take care.